What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over 5 questions Alan Wake 2 needs to answer. And what I'm going to do here is go over them in kind of like a general way, not going too deep in any of them. One of these I already made a video talking specifically about it. If you guys like this or you express interest, I could definitely do videos on each of these individually, and we can kind of go more in depth, okay? So I want to start with number 1, and this is the one that I actually made a full-on video on, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, and it's Thomas Zane. So some questions about Thomas Zane. Who is the guy, right? We talked about, is he Alan Wake? Is he potentially his dad? Just kind of going into more detail, right? This is the second time through, and what they've done so far from what we've seen from gameplay and all this stuff, a lot of focus obviously on Alan and a lot of focus on Saga, but these kind of peripheral characters like a Thomas Zane or even a Mr. Scratch, and we're going to get there in this video, we've seen next to nothing on. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be not important factors of the game. I think they're going to be massive factors, especially because Thomas Zane is an enormous presence in the first game, very powerful in terms of kind of his abilities, and again, the question marks there, right, of like, what is he still capable of now? Who is he? Do we get any more answers, I guess, as to that? I think we will. I think we're going to get a lot of answers. Maybe not all of them, and maybe some room, to expand it going forward into maybe a third game, but he is definitely a very big question mark for me. And again, I did an entire video talking about him. Number 2, I do want to talk about Mr. Scratch, again, in a general kind of sense. Okay, so what's going on with this guy, right? We kind of know that he is back, he's there, but we actually don't, there is actually a subjective term. We don't know where there is. Could he be in the dark place with Alan? They have a lot, I think, of wiggle room to move around with Mr. Scratch, right? Because while he's the primary antagonist of American Nightmare, and you get rid of him, you do find out later that he's still around, and I just can't imagine that you leave the doppelganger, just kind of like this physical presence of Alan, this alternate reality of him, how you can kind of just leave him out of it. I think he's going to be a part of it. And then to me, with Thomas Zane, it's a lot about answering questions that I feel like people can get pretty close to. I think there's a lot of theories out there on Thomas Zane that some of them may actually end up being right. You know what I mean? For Mr. Scratch, I feel like there's kind of more room to explore him, even though he technically got like a quote-unquote game to himself. I think there's more room there to kind of make him kind of a bigger deal or more powerful if they wanted to. They could pull back and he doesn't have to be a major influence in the game, but I think it could kind of go either way. I think they could make him way more important than you may think he is, or maybe dial him back and say, okay, well, he kind of had his time. He'll still be in it, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. I think it's those two possibilities, and obviously I think one of them is going to happen. Number 3 question I have is, and this is pretty specific, I would say maybe the most specific so far, how long is Alan Wake going to be in the dark place? And there's a couple things here. Number 1, does he ever get out? Well, from what we've seen so far, it certainly looks like he gets out, but here's the deal. Considering Alan's mental state, how long he's been in the dark place, and the game being broken up right into half of Alan, half of Saga, and you can do them at your own leisure. You could do really all of Saga's missions if you want, then go to Alan, and vice versa. I think that's clever, but that also makes me think, okay, well, doesn't that have to mean there's limitations? And I guess what I mean by that is, okay, well, does Alan get out of the dark place maybe at the very end? Because if you go through the entire game as Saga first and then you jump over to Alan, well, can Alan get out, and then wouldn't you have spoiled that in Saga's mission? So I just feel like it would kind of get messy. So my theory right now is it's actually going to take quite a while for Alan to get out, but I do think he gets out of the dark place, and then I guess the question there is, what next? And I want to leave it there because actually my final question on this list, it revolves around the ending and the future, but I do wonder how long he's going to be trapped there. Also, I guess you could say, because of the literal mechanics of the game, right? Saga is the newbie, the more, like our character, the person that we don't know too much or we're trying to play catch up, maybe some of us, right? She represents that. Whereas Alan is in just this, messed up reality, but also the literal like game itself, right? Like, so Saga doesn't really deal with that stuff, but Alan, these are just insane kind of situations he's in, and New York setting, very different kind of setting than Saga, right? If you pull Alan out of it too much, well, then it's all just the same game with two different characters in it, versus if it's 50-50 and Alan's in just such a different kind of setting versus Saga, that would be very different. And so I feel like you'd want to keep them apart and keep Alan in the dark place as long as you can, just even from like a gameplay perspective. But I don't know. I could be wrong there. Number 4, it is actually a question on Saga Anderson herself. So I've asked this question kind of before in passing, but this general point on this video's list is kind of anything about her, everything. So what is going on with this character? I guess more specifically what I wonder is how much of what she's doing is influenced not by herself, right? So the idea of her searching for Alan, and eventually, you know, if she gets him out, if she plays any role in getting him out, my biggest thing is how much of that was like 1,000% free will. She did it on her own. It was not destined to be. It wasn't written into reality. And that's the biggest thing to me. That's what I love so much about the lore and just the plot, I guess, that Sam Lake has created here, is so much of this stuff is kind of almost in a way predestined, right? And when you write stuff down in this world, at least for some of them, you know, it becomes reality, right? A lot of stuff maybe spawned off of Thomas Zane. A lot of stuff spawns off of Alan Wake. So I wonder, in terms of the actual person of Saga, how much of that maybe was Alan that did it, maybe it was Thomas Zane that did it, and that's what I really, really want to know. And I feel like you'll get hints throughout the game, but you probably won't know for sure until the end. At least that's my kind of theory right now. And the final question I have for this game, how much will it expand into or share that connected Remedy universe? So when you think of like Control 2 and just the future, like literally the future of what Remedy wants to do, look, they've talked about Control 2, and we know that's coming. We don't know if there'll be an Alan Wake 3. Now, I think you don't leave a game at 2, right? Now, it took 13 years to get Alan Wake 2, but I do think the idea would probably be to make a third game. I still feel like even though it wouldn't be 13 years of waiting, it would be quite a while because they have several games in development. I feel like if you're getting an Alan Wake 2, you're going to have to wait 6, 7, maybe even 8 years, right? But could Alan meet up with Jesse and connect to Control? Could Control 2 involve, could Control 2 really be like an Alan Wake 2.5? Could it have, Alan be a big role in that? If Alan gets out, right, if he gets out of the dark place, he really is part of that more connected universe with Remedy. So when it goes forward into Control 2, does Alan play a part of that or not? I feel like he kind of has to, because that's just how this would all work, right? But that's a big question. I imagine you're definitely going to get an answer on that one, of how much this game is going to impact the larger universe, and then going forward, even if it's not in Alan Wake 3, if it's in Control 2, what, the ramifications of this game, what it'll do to that game as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. As I said, I should be doing other videos, other theory videos on Alan Wake. I got a lot planned before the game comes out. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.